Annie Costable, Front Office Sports. I'm curious, with the transfer portal being open, are you guys getting texts from people like, hey, good luck in the tournament, but what's it like at UConn?
Paige, you can start.
No.
Aubrey
No.
and Kaitlyn.
No.
Super easy. We'll go to the second row and then work our way over.
Jen Hadfield with the next. Kaitlyn, for you, just what do you think the biggest areas are that you've grown as a player during your season with UConn, and how do you feel like Princeton prepared you for all that you've gone through this season and for this moment?
I feel like Princeton has prepared me really well as a leader. I feel like that's where I got comfortable using my voice, and I feel like that's sort of translated over here. And then being here at UConn, it's just a matter of getting comfortable playing within our system and finding the best places for me to succeed.
We're going to go to our left.
Coach Trey from SB Nation. This is for you, Paige. Right now, you're on a tear. Like, you're going wild right now. In your mind, do you already feel like you're a pro going against college kids?
No, not at all. Just being present here. I'm still in college. It being my 5th year. Obviously, I want to use my experience as an advantage and use that to help myself and to help the team. But definitely, just staying present here in college.
We're going to stay to our right. Kareem, if you could raise your hand, I see you. We'll put you on the list.
Hey, Paige, Kareem Copeland, Washington Post. How did you, obviously the championship is the goal, but how did you kind of want to approach this one more run in this tournament? And, like you just said, you've kind of really turned it up these last 3. So personally, how did you want to approach this tournament?
Just approaching it as one game at a time, one practice at a time, one weight room session at a time, and not looking too forward into the future and going 40 minutes by 40 minutes. And playing it by possession. I think focusing on the possession that you're in will help you not worry about missed shots or mistakes in the past or worry about being anxious for the future, but the possession that you're in is the most important possession of the season. And if you approach every possession like that, you'll have a sense of urgency to get everything right. And just enjoying it, embracing it. Obviously, it's my last year. It's all of our last years here. So just to be able to enjoy being here together and enjoy the little things like hanging out, saunaing together, cold tubbing together, eating together, like all the little things that you sometimes take for granted. Don't take them for granted and just enjoy them as much as you can.
We'll stay to our right. Doug, please raise your hand.
Doug Feinberg, The Associated Press. For all 3 of you, what challenges does UCLA present for you guys?
Start?
Yes, please.
Obviously, Lauren Betts, the size, what she does offensively, defensively, protecting the paint, and being a force on offense, really carving out space for herself, but also what she does to get her teammates open looks with all the attention that she draws. And it's not just her. There's shooters sprayed around the outside, so you can't focus on too much on one thing. So they're really versatile in what they do offensively, defensively. Got good size, good length. So they got great pieces.
I agree. They have great pieces, especially Lauren Betts in the inside. And I think if we do a good job of we gotta play both and play their inside and outside. They have some great shooters too, so I think they're very versatile. Yeah, everything the 2 of them already said.
We're going to the center of the room.
Hi, Paige. Kurt Sandoval from ABC7. When you stepped into this program, it's a legendary women's program. Can you speak to, A, the pressure then, and did it ever diminish? How did it become, or has it ever become just normal?
Well, I think before you even get here, you kind of know the pressures that exist by committing to UConn. So by making that decision to want to come here and try to live up to that and be a part of a legendary program, it's a decision you have to make before you even step on a campus. And then once you walk inside the practice facility, you see all the history, all the names, all the banners. It's just motivation, and obviously there's expectations here, and anything less than a national championship is really a disappointment. And as players, that's what you play for and what you want to live up to, and the expectations and the pressure. It's a privilege, and so we all look at it as such. And we're just extremely grateful to play here under the best coaching staff in the world and in the best program in the world. And we just wear the jersey with pride and want to live up to everything that the alums have done and that the coaching staff has done.
Take our next question, Cassandra, then we'll come to Mel.
Cassandra Negley with Yahoo Sports. Paige, when you were talking about not taking anything for granted, the saunas, the food, everything like that, how different is that from your first Final Four? Do you feel like you did take those final moments with some of those teammates for granted?
I wouldn't say that. It's just that you don't even recognize how important they are to life and how you're not ever guaranteed to get back there again. And having experience being at the Final Four, how hard it is to get there and how hard it is to maintain consistency throughout a long entire season. So not that you take those things for granted, but you don't have the experience on how hard it is to get there. And so just learning throughout the whole journey of the seasons, the ups and downs, the ebbs and flows, just taking none of that for granted because it's all a part of that season's journey. So I would just say a more appreciation of it.
Mel?
Mel Greenberg for Kaitlyn. When most people are transferring out the door right now, it's contentious. The Ivies, it's the other way. They tell you you're done, good luck. So it's going to be a more friendly departure, given who your coach is. And also, we found it interesting the other night that you did the same role that she did in '95 as sort of a lifesaver in a key spot. But in leaving, did she kind of, granted he's an older guy now, give you the book of UCONN or whatever, whatever you can share on that when you were making your decision?
She was definitely a very helpful resource as someone who played here and knows the coaches very well. But I just know that she had my best interest in mind, and she's someone who I trust tremendously, and someone who helped me make this decision for sure.
We're going to go to our left in the gray. If you could raise your hand. Yep, dead center.
Hi, Mike Anthony from Hurston, Connecticut for Paige. Paige, I know that this sport isn't easy on one's body. In your 5 years at UConn, what have you learned about taking care of your body? Wondering if you could just speak to how any body transformation you've seen in 5 years. I know you take more seriously strength and conditioning and nutrition, and just a lot goes into that, I understand.
Yeah, I would say the importance of eating, getting all 3 meals, of course, but also stuff in between. Sleeping, how important that is for the body, and rest and recovery, and making sure you're replenishing yourself with a good night's rest. Pilates has been a game changer for me in terms of getting all of my body parts to work together as one, everything surrounded by the core. So making sure my core is engaged, and even just activation. I was a person who just loved to tie their shoes and get on the court and play, but activating my muscles before participation. So, I mean, a lot of things go into taking care of your body, and obviously strength and conditioning is the main ingredient, but there's a lot of other things that are important.
I'm going to stay middle to the back. If you could raise your hand in the green so the student athletes can see you.
Dama Mori, Hartford Current. Paige, I know Gino alluded to this the other day. Obviously, Lauren Betts has talked about it. The scrutiny and the pressure that comes with what you do and where you do it. How did you learn to kind of deal with that? I imagine there were times when it was even more than you thought it was going to be. How did you learn to handle all of that goes around being a basketball player at UConn?
Yeah, I mean, it's still a learning process. Learning to care less about the opinions of others, and trying to please everyone. For every 500 people that love you, there's going to be 5 that hate you. So it's just focusing on the people that are important. And obviously there's a saying like, you don't take criticism from people you wouldn't take advice from. So just making sure you're listening to the right voices. Deleting social media is a great word of advice as well. So just not paying attention to it, not letting anything outside of this locker room, the program that we have, infiltrate what we have. So
We're going to stay to our left in the blue. If you could raise your hand so we can get the microphone to you.
Chelsea Sherrod, SNY. Aubrey and Kaitlyn, this question's for you. Paige has talked about a sense of urgency that she's playing with right now, and I think we've been seeing that over the past few games. I wonder what that urgency looks like for the two of you and kind of how that shows up in your approach to the games.
We can start with Aubrey.
I think her sense of urgency rubs off on everyone, just how hardworking she is, and you can tell she's really determined, and the traits that she brings to the game, it rubs off on everyone. Her leadership is something that we all look up to her for, and she's done a great job of just being that leader this year, and it's overall been great.
Yeah. And I feel like when we see her sort of take it into like that next level, like turn the switch during games, it's pretty infectious. Like it's something you want to be a part of, and you see her giving her all, and so like you want to give your all as well.
We are at time for our student athletes. At this time, student athletes will move over to the mix zone. The locker room for UConn is now open, and we will be joined on the dais by Coach.
Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome, Coach. All right, Coach, we are going to begin on our right-hand side. Joe, we'll go to you. I see you, Doug, and I see you as well.
Gino, Joey Johnston from the Tampa Bay Sports Commission. Your friend, Jose Fernandez, is about to become the president of the WBCA. Could you speak about your relationship with him, what you think he can bring to this role, and what you think the WBCA's priorities are for the coming year?
Well, yeah, I've known Jose for 30 years now almost, and I think he's a tremendous coach, obviously, as everybody knows, but he cares deeply about the game itself. He's been involved in various committees, and so he puts the time and the effort that it takes. I was in that role, and so I know it's a thankless role because you're trying to bring a lot of different agendas to the table and try to make them all go in the same direction. Not always easy. Hopefully, he can get the right people in the room to be okay with thinking outside the norm, asking the right people for advice. There's a lot of administrators, there's a lot of coaches, there's a lot of ADs that they've been to multiple Final Fours with the men and the women. And I think a lot of times we say, well, just because the guys do it, that doesn't mean we should do it. That's absolutely true. We do something that they don't do, which is, we have quarters. They're the only people that bounce a basketball to play halves. We advance the ball so the game lasts longer, so you have more opportunities to win the game, We did away with the one-on-one and all that. We've come up with some great ideas that have helped our game. But I also think we're sometimes afraid to look at what they do that enhances their tournament and see whether or not that fits what we want to do. And not be married to tradition, I guess is what I'm saying. And bring the game, as I've been a big proponent of this, and I'm going to talk to Jose about this, bring the game to more people. By going to 2 regionals, we've taken the game away from the people And I think we need to bring it back to where more people can be in the stands. And lastly, we need to change the schedule. We need to finish way earlier than we finish now so that we don't come here Tuesday night, 3,000 miles, and then practice Wednesday and Thursday and play the biggest game of the year on Friday night at 9:30. You know? And we were the last team to play on Monday. And the team we play was home Sunday afternoon. So, and that just goes for whoever played in that game. I just happened to be that person today. So we need to change the schedule so that we have more time, and maybe we need to finish on a different weekend than the men finish. Maybe we need to finish a week earlier. We do it for the conference tournaments, right? So there's a lot of things I want to talk to him about. He might be the one guy that will ask me, so that's not a bad thing.
We're going to do a little bit of a zigzag. We'll go Doug, then we'll go Dom, and then we'll work our way back.
Hey, Gino, Doug Feinberg, the AP.
Yeah.
Corey was saying before that, I guess 13 years ago, she came to watch you guys practice in the NCAA tournament. I think she said Sweet 16 round, and then came back with her staff the year later. Just can you talk about her relationship with her and just the fact you're willing to open up the biggest time of the year to let a coach who was new, so to speak, at a school come and learn from you guys, and now you're playing her on the stage?
Yeah. If I'd have known, I wouldn't have let her in. I just remember when I was a young coach, especially in high school. When I was a young coach in high school, always admired the coaches that were open and willing to share ideas, their ideas. I've never been one to want to hide anything or, oh my God, they're competitors. And one of the funniest things that ever happened was 3 kids, from Tennessee showed up for practice for like 2 or 3 days. And they thought, they called ahead, obviously, they didn't just walk in, but everybody thought at that time, oh my God, this is like, the Cold War, the Russians are coming, right? And it was so much fun for us, for them. Basketball is basketball, and it's our job to share it if we have anything that's worth it, and if they think we have something that's worth it. And you can't worry about, anything else. And our relationship with, and through USA Basketball, Corey and I got to know each other a little bit, and we both share, passion for wines, and so her energy and all that she has, that she brings, is just infectious, I think, and I'm glad when coaches have success, and that's what we're here for.
We're going to go to that's our left.
Dom Amori, Hartford Current. Gino, you've coached a couple of Hall of Famers at UConn, and that number could double in the next couple of days. I was wondering if you can give us your thoughts on the possibility of a couple of more of your players going into the Hall of Fame.
It's so unbelievable that when you think of a 17-year-old that you're sitting there talking to, and you're projecting them as freshmen and sophomores in college and juniors in college, and where do I think they can be, and how much impact could they have on our program, and all those great things. And when they're there, you realize there's something special about them. And fast forward, and then to look up and realize that their wildest dreams have come true. I mean, what kid doesn't shoot a basket when they're 10 and think about winning a national championship, winning, a gold medal, and then somebody goes, you're the best player in the country. But I don't know that any one of those kids ever came to UConn saying, I came here to make the Hall of Fame, to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. I don't think anybody said that. Maybe Diana did, because, But for me to see, what's happened up there with Rebecca and Swin, and now Maya and Sue, obviously being in the mix, that pretty much is bigger than, when you look back, than all the national championships. Who? They're Hall of Famers for me. They're Hall of Famers for their family. They're Hall of Famers for everybody. They're even Hall of Famers for the UConn haters. That's one thing they can all agree on, you know? They're Olympian Hall of Famers. They're WNBA Hall of Famers. They're college Hall of Famers. They're Hall of Famers as people, most of all.
I'm going to go to our right. Ben, if you could raise your hand so Coach can see you.
Ben Pickman with The Athletic. Dawn was in here earlier, and she mentioned that she wants or she hopes that college basketball would have its own TV deal to determine its worth. I guess, where do you stand on...
Who said that?
Dawn.
About?
The media rights deal.
Oh, the women's basketball should have their own?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought they were doing stuff like that. I thought they were trying to spin it off. I don't know where that got, and it probably didn't get as far as maybe it could have. But we talk about that all the time. And we also, it's funny because we talk about it in our league. You know, we talk about it as UConn. You know, how do we get more value for our brand? Is it worth more than if you put it into collectively a bunch of other stuff? So it's worth exploring, I think. When you put it out there, you're going to have to be ready for it. May be smaller than you think, and it may be 3 times larger than you think. So it's best to find out, right? Instead of just keep wondering. So yeah, I would think that would be fantastic.
We're going to stay to the center of the room, Coach.
Hey, Gino. Matt Baker with The Athletic. Another kind of big picture question, but revenue sharing probably going to be finalized and signed off on here in the next couple of days or weeks. What sort of impact do you expect that to have on your game and the types of programs that are able to compete for women's Final Fours?
Well, it'll ruin parity. That's number one. I mean, I'm for revenue sharing. There will be less parity in the game of basketball. If you look at right now, there's less parity happening every year in men's basketball. People talk about the football, 12 schools. It's the same 4 in the Final Four, seems like every year. And as the money now drives it, there's going to be less people that have that kind of money. There's going to be less of them that are going to want to give it to women's basketball. So if the number of teams that could win the national championship, when it was us in Tennessee and everybody wanted anybody to win other than UConn and Tennessee, and then it kind of stretched. Now you look at the landscape today, and it's still a lot of the same teams, but there's a lot more vying for that spot in the Final Four. Well, now that's all going to go away. Now it'll become like college football, where in every conference, and as the conferences get bigger, think about it, it's 18 teams in the Big Ten for now, okay? I would venture to say 8 of those teams will never get to the championship game in any sport. I'm talking about basketball, football, men's basketball maybe. So when you do those kind of things and it's money driven, it's going to be who's going to become the Dodgers and the Yankees, and how many of those are you going to have, and how many other programs in women's basketball are going to be Milwaukee and Kansas City, because that's where we're headed. And don't believe this $20.5 million salary cap. See, the thing in the NBA, if you go over the salary cap, there's a huge tax. There's a salary cap in revenue sharing in sports, in college. You think anybody in their right mind is going to stick to 20.5? That might be what's on the books, but that ain't going to be the final number. And there's nobody out there looking around to collect taxes on that.
Coach, we're going to go to our right.
Hey, Coach. And we play UCLA. They're really good.
Yeah.
Just thought I'd throw that in.
Hey, Coach, T. Baker with the Next. Kaitlyn Chen obviously had a great Elite Eight, and when you think about what she's brought all season, what has been the biggest difference she's brought to the team, and what gap has she filled in the roster?
maturity, experience, you know, things that we obviously lost when ncaa graduated. She's a different player than ncaa, different personality, approaches things differently, different skill set. But in what we needed for this particular team, I think she's been the perfect addition. Obviously, Sarah Strong was the biggest addition. I think Kaitlyn Chen was the perfect addition for what this team needed at the position that we needed it. And so you saw in the other night in that game why it was worth bringing her in. And I have had a blast coaching her. I mean,
We'll go to the second row on our left.
contrary to Ivy League students, they do have a sense of humor.
Hi, I'm Stephanie from SB Nation. There have been a few players not from UConn this tournament run who have expressed they've come from traumatic or toxic environments to other schools. You have a wealth of coaching experience, and you obviously have players for decades that adore you. What do coaches need to do better?
Man, oh man. Even if I knew, I wouldn't tell you. I mean, I can share, but I can't share that much. I just think this incredible pressure to win, and the pressure, to your question about revenue sharing, the pressure to win is only going to get greater. You mean I'm paying you guys, and this is what I got to watch? Somebody's getting fired. So the pressure's immense. It's only going to get more pressure packed. So how do you react under pressure? Well, if you've been there and done that and you're secure, you just stay the course and say, this is what we do, and if you don't like it, tough. If you're young and you're trying to make a name for yourself and you're like close or not quite there, well, I can buy a team. It's better than recruiting one. I got to wait forever for them to get better. I just go out and buy a team. Well, now the kids all know they came to your school to get paid. And when everybody's getting paid and they find out who's getting paid, what, and the animosity now between coaches and players. You know, it used to be, you know, players didn't like the fact that coaches had all the power. Well, now coaches hate the fact that players have all the power. Players on the team hate each other because of what one is getting, the other one's not getting. And all of a sudden, nobody's coming there to win a national championship. They're coming there to build their brand, to make their money. And oh, by the way, if we get to the Final Four, wouldn't that be cool? Does that happen in every program? Hell no. I bet you 90% of the programs in America, that's not the case. But the ones you're talking about, that's exactly the case.
Take our final question from the back. Chantel, if you could raise your hand.
Hey, Gino. Chantel Jennings with The Athletic. In Spokane, you said that Paige has a little bit of Diana in her. I was hoping you could expand on that. What about her on or off the court reminds you the most of Dee?
Obviously, there's a lot of similarities, and there's so many differences as well. They, in the best sense of the word, number one, they are both exceptional con artists. They can spin things so that it goes their way about 99.9% of the time. So they live in that world, which I admire that, because winners do that. They have to be right. They have to be at the top. They have to be unchallenged. So they've got that going for them. They're both extremely outgoing. They both enjoy other people's company. They're accommodating to other people. They're respectful. They're great team players. They're both generous to their teammates, both on the court, off the court. They have a flair for the moment. They can summon up something that's needed at the time when it's exactly needed. They take responsibility for what happens. They're not afraid of the criticism that might come if they fail. And I don't think anybody loves being in the gym more than those two. And if you ask them where's their happy place, and they could be any place in the world at any time, they would tell you, in a gym by myself, doing what I love to do. And that's the best way I can describe both of them in how do they compare. Now, how are they different? That would be a whole different press conference.
And speaking of which, we want to thank you for your time today, Coach.
Thank you.
Best of luck
Appreciate
tomorrow.
it.